October 14th, 1066. A single day, a single battle. Yet here's the paradox. The Battle of Hastings changed absolutely nothing about medieval life, and simultaneously changed everything about the future of the world. This is the story of the most contradictory victory in history. On the surface, nothing changed. Peasants still worked the same fields. The same crops grew in the same soil. People still lived in the same villages, spoke variations of the same languages, prayed to the same God. England remained England, an island kingdom off the coast of Europe. But beneath this surface, calm, everything was shifting like tectonic plates. It begins with a simple succession crisis. January 10, 66. King Edward the Confessor dies childless. 3 men claim his throne, each with seemingly valid reasons. Harold Godwinson, the powerful English earl who moves fastest and gets crowned immediately. William of Normandy, who insists Edward promised him the crown years earlier. Harald Hardrada, the Norwegian king claiming ancient Viking rights. What follows seems like typical medieval politics. Harald Hardrada invades from the north with 300 longships. Harold Godwinson marches north, defeats the Vikings at Stamford Bridge on September 25th. Harald Hardrada dies with an arrow in his throat. The last great Viking age ends not with a roar, but with a whimper. Then William lands in the south with 7,000 Normans. Harold rushes back south. 2 exhausted armies meet at Hastings on October 14th. After hours of bloody fighting, King Harold falls, struck down by a Norman arrow. William wins. End of story. Except it's not the end. It's the beginning of everything. Here's what didn't change. England remained a feudal kingdom. Lords still ruled over peasants. The church still dominated spiritual life. People still lived and died within a few miles of where they were born. Kings still fought wars over land and succession. The basic rhythms of medieval existence continued unchanged. But here's what did change. Slowly and invisibly, the nature of power itself. William doesn't just conquer England, he reorganizes it completely. Within 5 years, nearly every English noble is dead, exiled, or stripped of power. French-speaking Norman lords now control every major estate. This isn't just a change of management. It's a complete rewiring of how England works. The English language absorbs thousands of French words. Not just fancy courtly terms, but everyday words for government, law, food, and social hierarchy. Word government itself comes from Norman French. So does parliament, justice, prison, beef, mutton, and noble. The very vocabulary of power becomes foreign. Norman efficiency revolutionizes English administration. The Domesday Book of 1086 creates the most detailed census in medieval Europe. Every village, every farm, every cow is recorded. This level of bureaucratic control is unprecedented. It's the beginning of the modern state. Stone castles replace wooden fortifications. These aren't just military improvements, they're psychological warfare. A Norman castle announces permanent occupation. It says, "We're not going anywhere." The English landscape is rewritten in stone, but the real change is subtler and more profound. Norman England becomes a European power with continental ambitions. English kings now hold vast territories in France. This dual identity, English but also European, will define England for centuries. Norman military techniques transform English warfare. Heavy cavalry, crossbows, castle, siege warfare. When future English kings fight wars, they fight them with Norman methods. When they conquer Wales, Scotland, and Ireland, they do it with Norman efficiency. The Crusades become an English enterprise. Norman knights carrying English banners march to Jerusalem. England, once an isolated northern island, now projects power across Europe and into the Middle East. Norman legal concepts reshape English law. Trial by jury, common law, the concept of precedent. These emerge from the fusion of Norman and Anglo-Saxon traditions, the legal system that will eventually spread across the British Empire and influence legal systems worldwide has its roots in post-Hastings. England. Here's the ultimate paradox. This foreign conquest makes England more English than it ever was before. Norman organizational skills, combined with Anglo-Saxon stubbornness, create something entirely new. Neither purely Norman nor purely Anglo-Saxon, but a unique synthesis that becomes the foundation of English identity. The Norman conquest also plants the seeds of English maritime expansion. Norman administrative efficiency will eventually create the bureaucratic apparatus needed to manage global trade. Norman military innovations will evolve into the naval techniques that dominate the world's oceans. Norman legal concepts will become the framework for governing distant colonies by 1100. Just 34 years after Hastings, Norman England is launching the First Crusade. By 1200, English merchants are trading across Europe. By 1300, Edward I is conquering Wales and threatening Scotland. By 1500, English ships are crossing the Atlantic. The thread connects directly from William's invasion fleet in 1066 to Drake's circumnavigation of the globe in 1577. From Norman castle building to British fortress colonies in India. From the Domesday Book's bureaucratic precision to the administrative systems that will govern a quarter of the world's population. Yet, none of this was inevitable. If Harold had waited for reinforcements, if William's feigned retreat had failed, if that Norman arrow had missed its target, the entire trajectory of world history changes. No Norman efficiency means no strong English state. No strong English state means no British Empire. No British Empire means no global spread of English language, law, and political concepts. Democracy, as we know it, might never have developed. The Industrial Revolution might have happened elsewhere, or not at all. The Americas might have remained Spanish and Portuguese. Australia and New Zealand might never have been settled by Europeans. The modern world map would be unrecognizable. This is why Hastings changed nothing and everything. In 1067, life looked exactly the same as it had in 1065. Same villages, same fields, same daily routines. But the institutional changes set in motion by Norman conquest would eventually reshape not just England, but the entire world. One battle, one day, one arrow. The consequences are still unfolding almost 1,000 years later. Every time you use a word like government or justice, every time you participate in a jury trial, every time you see English used as a global language, of Hastings proves that the most important changes in history often happen invisibly beneath the surface of daily life. What seems like nothing at the time can become everything over the centuries. That's the paradox of historical change. It's simultaneously immediate and delayed, obvious and hidden, everything and nothing. Just like the battle that created the modern world while seeming to change absolutely nothing at all.